This time on Roadkill, you asked for it, you got it. Finally, it is a showdown between Blasphemi and my F-Rod in an 8-second quarter-mile showdown.
And we made 1,100 horsepower in this car and road tripped it nearly 800 miles.
Big win.
Still runs.
Blasphemi is back. Our 426 based Hemi and a 55 Chevy has been with us since season 1 of Roadkill. Can you even believe that?
Has it been that long?
It has been that long, and I haven't seen it in, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, and a whole bunch of stuff has changed. Here's our plan. We're gonna start here at Wild Horse Motorsports Park in Chandler, Arizona, make some passes, I guess tune on it, figure out what's gone wrong. And then we're gonna road trip the thing to San Diego, California, right along the border. We have to change the supercharger at a dyno shop, tune it up to make it quicker, then road trip it to Famosa Drag Strip, which is outside of Bakersfield, California, where my own Model A called the F-Rod will be sitting there. And my Model A has gone 8.501 in the quarter mile.
This car's never been that fast. It ran a bunch of 60s in Vegas, but since then it's pretty much been broken. And currently that supercharger is wore out, which is why I ordered a blower and sent it ahead of us, hoping that we can pick up power. The car got heavier over the last couple of years because I got tired of, say, the fiberglass trunk lid blowing off.
I remember that.
So it has a steel trunk lid on it now, which is way heavier than I thought it would be. So I got rid of 19 pounds of battery cable by moving the battery up front.
Really?
Yeah. And that battery was over here, but then I was having oil pressure issues with it. Every time I pulled the parachute, I'd lose all the oil pressure. So everything is different. The motor plates, the oiling system, the fuel system, the electrical system. The blower, though, is the same blower from 2019, and I'm pretty sure it's wore out.
Was it on the 85 when you won Drag Week?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But these headers are different.
These are slightly bigger.
When was the last time this road tripped successfully?
2019.
Okay.
Let's talk history of Blasphemi. This is my favorite roadkill project car of all time, and it all began with a $2,300 body of a 55 Chevy Bel Air that we bought out of a backyard in Hemi, California. And we hauled it all the way to Oregon to Jim Meyer Racing, slid one of his cool gasser chassis under it. Then we cut the wheel wells, put some cool wheels and tires on it. But the key to this whole car is Freiburger's fault. It was his idea to put a Chrysler 426 Hemi under the hood. So that's what we did. We thought, why not? Hemi and a Chevy, you're either gonna love it or hate it. So in the beginning, all I wanted was a cool street car, kind of like what the guys in the movie 2-Lane Blacktop drove. I loved the look of that car, which is why this car is flat black. And in the beginning, I didn't really care about how fast it went. I just wanted to look cool. And then somewhere along the line, I lost my mind and just spent every waking moment and most of my money making it faster and faster, until finally, in 2019, Tony Angelo and I won Hot Rod Magazine's Drag Week event, going as quick as 161 miles an hour in this thing. The problem is it's really unreliable and it hasn't gone that fast since. Let's go test it. Let's go find out where we're at in terms of track performance, and then we'll figure out a way to make it more powerful and faster, hopefully before we get to Bakersfield and I have to line up with the F-Rod.
I was doing the nut and bolt check underneath the car, and I found a couple things that needed to be snugged. It wasn't that bad. However, I've spotted a really bad thing about tire clearance. Mike had the rear end narrowed, and unfortunately with these different wheels, they're too far inboard and they're hitting the inner wheel well.
So before this car went on the chassis dyno last week, I switched wheels, and I thought, oh, they clear the inner fenders just fine. They're not. They hit the inner fender bad.
Well, that was painful to watch, but it's probably gonna save disaster.
Yeah, I'm totally okay with it.
All right, way better clearance. It's still gonna tag it a little bit, but it's not gonna cut the tire. We've gotten through our safety checks and we're ready to go. Put it on track for the first time. You gonna go all out or you gonna take it easy first time down?
Nah, you know me, I'm just gonna go.
Okay. Yeah. He'll lift when it gets ugly.
Oh, this is exciting. I have not driven down any drag strip in this car in over a year.
For the first pass in Blasphemi in a long time, a ton of stuff has changed on the car. Different throttle body, different injectors, coil on plug ignition, dry sump, different clutch, different transmission, different rear tires. See what happens.
That was fun.
Tires are brand new, so we gave them a little bit of extra heat. It's typically a good process for a fresh out-of-the-box tire.
All right, getting ready to roll into the beams. We're pre-staged. Now we're staged. Okay, a lot of cowbell. It did not hook.
You can see the tire bounced pretty good.
Yeah, that's the same two-step I've always used, so I could turn the two-step down if I had the laptop. Wow, it hasn't spun like that in a long time.
Thinking it through, the 6-speed has a much lower first gear than your G-Force did. He's got the computer out. We're looking at the data, just what happened to make sure that the two-step rev limiter was set where it needed to be.
There we go. All right, burnout number 2. We've lowered the rev limiter. Let's try this again. No, just smoke the tires again.
So it smashes, but the whole rear end of the car is squatting. It's not separating. That is fairly low tire pressure. Here's what's going on. You saw our first 2 hits, the thing spun the tires real bad. The first time it actually hopped the tire off the ground. Looking at the data, we're realizing that the camshaft was advanced a lot versus the last time he ran this thing. And he just told me that it's making more boost down low than it did on the dyno, which is unusual. So it's making a lot more power, so he's having trouble hooking it up with his old combo. Right now I'm checking tire pressure, which is below 12. Mike contacted Pete Harrell, his engine guy and tuner, and sent him the file out of the computer, the tune-up on the car, and he went ahead and pulled some ignition timing down low to take some power out of the car so that it would launch. Sun's going down, we're about to run out of track time. The folks at Wild Horse at Radford Driving School have been super cool to us, and they gave us some more time. So it's a nice, cool evening now after everything that we changed, which includes the tune-up, the shock settings, the tire pressure, and new spark plugs. So let's give this a shot.
Okay, here we go. Pre-staged, staged.
Well, finally got down track. That was a 10:09 at 146 miles an hour. The mile an hour tells you that the car should be way faster. That's a very slow ET for the mile an hour. It didn't fully hook, and he hit the rev limiter in first, and he obviously was granny shifting the thing, but we're headed the right direction. I think he'll probably come back and give it another shot, kind of as is. 10:09, 146.
Okay.
146 is okay.
I short shifted one gear, hit the rev limiter, another one. I was a mess.
Yeah.
Now we're getting somewhere. I know it wasn't fast and it really wasn't pretty, but I learned a lot. The problem with using the clutch when you shift is every time you use the clutch, it restarts the launch process over and pulls ignition timing out of it about 9 degrees. So you clutch, it pulls 9 degrees, then the motor's trying to accelerate with only like 17 degrees of timing in it. It's not accelerating as hard as it could. So for this pass, I've lowered the launch RPM another 200, and then we just pulled another ½ degree of timing out of it for the first second of the run. Hopefully that makes it stick. Hopefully I can remember not to use the clutch and not granny shift, hit my shift points, and go much faster down this drag strip.
Ah! He's using the clutch.
That was better, but it went left. I guarantee the 60-foot was better on that one.
Well, that was cool and violent. It left pretty hard, but man, this thing goes left like mad. Unfortunately, it seems to me like he was stepping on the clutch again. When he does that, it reactivates the ignition retard for the launch. So I think he just needs to figure out how to shift it without the clutch.
Curious what the 60-foot was, because it was way happier.
Oh yeah, it was way better, although you went hard left.
Yeah.
That's like a ladder bar adjustment.
Yeah.
Or a real tire pressure problem or a brake dragging.
We have a little bit of time left. I'd like to make one more pass, at least down the drag strip, to find out, you know, where we're at in terms of this car's performance.
Well, that was the best run of the night, 9.805 at 148.79, but the 60-foot was 181. So
Yeah, I don't know why it spun so bad that time.
it was really bad.
And I suck at driving right now, so
Drive to the hotel, as is, slicks, open headers.
sure,
Let's do it.
let's party. It's road trip day. We're fully tested and ready to go across the entire desert between here and Santee, California, which is like 300 miles, with nothing really in between. We need to take the slicks off and bolt the Coker tires that we had on here.
Let's hope it doesn't rain. It won't.
Yeah, and then we're going to switch the fuel lines in here because under this trunk floor are two different fuel cells. We're gonna switch the tune in the ECU. We're gonna take the little blower pulley off and put a bigger one on just to slow the blower down, and then put the side pipes on so we go less def, and then go.
Cruising through Gila Bend, Arizona, and all of a sudden I realized this is where we were for the very first episode of Roadkill ever. Last night we stayed in a hotel that I swear looked like they had spray painted over a triple homicide. It was so bad. And we paid $45 for the privilege of staying there. Yeah, the room was over there in that corner behind that dumpster. All right, that's a bad memory, but wow, 12 years, our first episode.
Yeah.
All right, good time. Let's go.
Let's go. I think we're close to the highway.
We're probably gonna need to fix that.
Yeah, would you throw that spring on there for me?
Yeah, we got a problem with the throttle sticking, so I'm gonna go put another throttle return spring on this pooch. Maybe it's fixed.
It's gotta be better than it was.
How come?
I don't know. These are new issues.
One block later, next problem, the throttle is sticking, or at least the thing's idling way too fast now. We got two springs on here. Show them your port plug trick.
This throttle body is a prototype made by a guy named Phil Rohr. Incredible machinist. And one of the things he did was to improve drivability was he machined these plugs that are O-ringed that should go in here and cap off one hole so that you don't have these giant throttle blades when you're going down the road.
When you have throttle valve area that's a whole bunch, you move the throttle just a little, and there's a lot of air going, and so it's like just barely tip into it, and it goes, ah! So that helps slow that down.
Well, that's not enough spring to do it.
This is not a car where you want the throttle to be stuck.
I think part of what's happening is the blower and the throttle body are all really hot and the butterflies are sticking in the bore because it doesn't return. And so what I'm gonna do now is increase the spring rate by adding another bracket, drilling some holes, putting the springs at a little bit better angle, stretching them out even further.
Ignition. Not returning all the way.
I brought my old throttle body, which is a smaller one. That makes less power than this one makes, but the drivability is, you know, at least today, better. So we're gonna take this off right now and go to the old school Hilborn cast throttle body that I used to have.
Trying to get it started now with the new old throttle body.
Yay, us. Let's go driving.
We've now stayed here longer than we stayed in that hotel room 12 years ago. My turn to drive.
If you double clutch, it won't clank when it goes into the first 4 gears. Okay. But you don't have to. Yeah, you're going 75 miles an hour at 1900 RPM.
At 7% throttle and almost 14 to 1 AFR.
Now where the blowers is really hot now.
Now it's 200. Are the fans and water pump plugged in?
I don't recall unplugging them.
I don't either. It's still going up, 203, 204.
I lowered the timing. Let's see what happens here.
Yeah, it might not like it. Yep, it's cooling down. So it didn't like the timing.
What day is today?
I have no idea.
Oh, it's Wednesday.
That's right.
Yeah, we're doing good. Yesterday went really well. What did you think?
Oh, I got to cruise the thing. This car is actually way better than you think it is on the highway. I was kind of blown away because I haven't ridden in it or driven it since we drove it all the way across the country in like season 3. That's 10 years ago.
It's been 10 years.
It's been 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
You did great.
Yeah.
Oh, we learned a lot.
Yeah.
We learned that it wants to overheat if you lean it out on the highway.
That was interesting.
I think we both believe this supercharger is wore out. Well, I had one delivered to my friend Andy Rawls' shop, like minutes away from here. And Andy is really good friends with the dyno shop. So we're gonna go to Andy's shop, pick up a new blower for this. Then we're gonna go to the dyno shop, test it in its current configuration, then put a new blower on it and see, does it make more boost? Does it make less heat? Does it make more power?
This will be pretty cool because I don't think we've ever done a hub dyno on Roadkill.
No, I've only ever seen one once.
And now we're at Rawls Precision Machine in Santee, California. The proprietor is a good friend of mine, Andy Rawls. He's the guy that built my drag boat. He does military stuff. He does stuff for the marine industry. And this is where we shipped our new blower. But the guys at the blower shop mailed us one that's wildly different than the one that's on the car. Externally, it looks the same, but there's parts and pieces here for actually tuning where the boost is going, how much of it's gonna come out, and how quickly it's gonna come out, which is pretty sweet. This should make more boost, and we should make more power.
Yeah, we won't know until we get to the dyno shop, though.
Let's go.
Yeah.
We're gonna make it.
1 mile on slicks in the rain. We can do it.
We can do it.
Is this it?
We drove 1 entire mile without crashing the car in the rain on our slick tires, and now we are at Darden Tuned, a hub dyno shop right here in Santee, California. I'm excited because I have very little experience with a hub dyno.
Same.
And we have lots of things we can test. Not a lot of time to do it, but at the very least, we'll find out today, is that blower worn out? And so now with the front clip off, we put it in race mode. So the air filter comes off, we change to a smaller blower pulley, we take the side pipes off, put the bullhorns back on, then go to the back of the car and switch fuel pumps and tanks and make a hit. That's not happening. It's definitely not happening.
Mike is consulting with Darden, who's our dyno operator today. I'm changing spark plugs. And there's the plug that we've been driving on, and it might be just a little bit fluffy.
I just showed Darden our tune and the data logs from the track the other day to let him know, hey, this thing is happy, it will make a pull. All right, tune is in. Okay, street pulley. This will be the same one that it ran on Pete's dyno.
Okay.
So we maybe could compare.
Somewhat. We're done in the engine compartment here, and Noah and Adam did the exhaust for us, so Mike's gonna go back and swap fuel lines, and then I think we're good to go. On our show, we've only ever used like engine dynos or regular roller dynos. I've seen these, but explain how it works.
I've been doing a lot of high horsepower cars, and this takes all the insecurities of running, having to worry about slip or having to worry about a car flying off the dyno or melting a strap. Plus you also have roller noise, so you don't have to worry about roller noise on this as well.
And it's just gonna bolt to the hub and
Right,
go.
so we take the tires off, connect straight to the hubs. So if he ever tries to lift, this will hold it down and you'll be good to go.
Is it gonna wheelie?
We hope so.
You haven't rebuilt this engine in a couple weeks. Let's do this.
I was gonna say I was excited for this because I've never compared a hub dyno versus a roller dyno.
So what was the number that it made on Pete Harrell's chassis dyno?
I believe 850.
All right, let's find out. That's a lot of smoke.
940.
I'm not entirely surprised. 6,400 RPM. We're gonna go one more because
7,000 RPM?
7,000, yeah. It sounds really happy.
It does. On the second pull, we ran it all the way to 7,000 RPM. It made 972 horsepower at the axle and 862 pound-feet of torque. More importantly, Finnegan and Darden are going over the data right now and just making sure that the air-fuel ratio looks good, that there's no anomalies in even like oil pressure and things like that. The boost is where they expect it to be. It's making about 13 pounds.
So the reason we're spending all of this time tuning an engine with a supercharger we know we're going to take off is because we want to make sure the tune is right, the engine is happy, so that we just take the blower off, put a new one on, make a couple more pounds of boost, hopefully, with the same tune, and see if we gain power. Okay, we are headed in the right direction.
Our tuning gap in the beginning was this much because we were so rich, and as we started getting leaner, our tuning got smaller and smaller to the point where like the motor tells you, hey, I want this AFR and I want this type of timing, and there's nothing else you can do to make more power except change boost pressure. So now we're gonna change the blower. We're gonna load up a richer tune just to see how the motor acts first, then we'll lean it back out and see what the motor makes and how it responds to it.
Ready? Up and over. Let's talk tech. These are both Root-style 871 superchargers from the blower shop. One of the innovations on both of these is the ports in the side of them where the electronic fuel injectors go. Now, you really have to have fuel going through one of these superchargers to keep it cool and sealed. There are some differences between the two blowers, though, so this isn't going to be a direct A/B test of just a worn-out blower versus a nice and fresh one. First of all, look how this has got a center divider in the top right here, and this one does not. It's also been machined for this special insert that goes right here and restrict the opening while also sealing the rotor a little bit more over here. You tend to get the boost rise earlier in the RPM band. There's also a difference in the discharge side of the supercharger. You can see how this actually has a longer opening and there is a bar down the middle of it. This doesn't have that bar, and the distance from here to here on the opening is actually less. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, that's less flow because it's a smaller hole. But in fact, what this is doing is keeping the air sealed to the rotors for longer. Remember, as the rotors turn, they press the air to the outside of the case. And right here, as soon as the rotor clears the case, it's going to discharge the air into the engine. In this case, it's hanging on to more air for longer before it discharges, and so that can be a benefit. Also, Blower Shop has found that this version helps with cylinder-to-cylinder distribution, so that's kind of the difference between the two blowers. The throttle doesn't open all the way.
Oh, I know. That bolt fell out.
That bolt fell out?
That bolt fell out last year at Drag Week, and I think this got put in. And then we never had wide open throttle after that.
The scientific method is now completely out the window. Remember I told you we were gonna try and do an A/B test between the old supercharger and the new one? And then I showed you some little differences between the old one and the new one. Well, now there's way more. In addition to us adding this little spacer back here, we swung our throttle body in here and noticed that that spacer completely blocks off the airflow from this throttle body. While doing that, I also noticed that this throttle body doesn't even begin to go to wide open throttle because there is a little bolt on it that those guys changed at Drag Week last year that prevented that from happening. So once we realized that, we started looking at this gasket that has been between the throttle body and the supercharger the entire time. Then Darden says, I've seen turbocharged cars kill 20 PSI with a screen like that. And so we decided that we're not gonna run that screen anymore. But then, remember the problem with this blocking the throttle body? We realized that the blower shop had already given us a solution to that with this spacer. So now that spacer is gonna go there, this is gonna go there. So now we've changed the style of the discharge, the style of the inlet, the screen, the spacer, and having wide open throttle. So there's no more scientific method, but now we're gonna make a lot of horsepower, which is all we really care about, let's be honest.
Old throttle body, but with new wide open throttle.
Now, with 25% more throttle opening.
Blower swap is done. Now we're gonna fire it up, set the idle, and then get out of the way because this thing is gonna make some beans.
There we go, boys.
It's finally working.
That's some steam.
I got bad news for you, Mr. Burger.
So yeah, she's happy.
This car has never made that much power. We're gonna make one more harrow pull. We're gonna put a little more timing in it. We're gonna take some fuel away and we're gonna rev the engine another 300 RPM because the last pull we stopped at about 6,900. We're now gonna rev it to 72. Most of the people standing around here think it's gonna make somewhere about 1140, 1150. Yeah, it will, and I'll be totally happy with that.
Yeah, baby.
That is beef.
We came in here with a car that made about 970 horsepower at the hub and about 850 foot-pounds of torque, and we are leaving with a car that makes 1,136 horsepower and 930 foot-pounds of torque. Car rips. We now have to put it back into street mode and then drive to Bakersfield, which is like 250 or 60 miles away.
That's a tomorrow story.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Not worried at all.
Right.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yep.
Beers?
Yes.
Yes.
We can do that.
Let's go celebrate.
See ya.
This car rules. Well, it's day 4 of our adventure. Day 3 was incredible. However, changing the blower and the way the throttle body mounts, well, it necessitated a bigger hole in the hood and a taller hood scoop. So we came back to Andy Rawls' shop. Andy is a killer fabricator and designer and came up with the idea for this. Moment of truth. Oh, that looks evil.
Yeah.
All right.
Get out of my shop.
Yeah. Never return.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Great to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks a lot.
We have driven 68 miles since we left Andy Rawls' shop, and now we're broke-ish. I mean, nothing's falling out, but the clutch doesn't want to release, and so that makes it hard to sit in bumper-to-bumper SoCal traffic when the clutch doesn't want to release.
And I think the transmission needs to come out, and we need to remove a shim from behind the throwout bearing. Before we bother with all that rigmarole of tearing the transmission out and assuming it's the throwout bearing shim, we're gonna go ahead and bleed the clutch to see if it's just air in the system. Up, down and hold.
So it's either got no air gap or it wasn't moving enough before.
Well, if I do this, is there a gap?
Oh, you know what? I've got my little camera I could stick in there and see.
Yep.
All right, definitely an issue with the throwout bearing. So what we're gonna do is take this $30 Bluetooth wireless camera, shove it up through a tiny hole in the side of the transmission to see when it's released, is there a gap? We just bleed it and hit the road, and I think we'll be fine. If there is no gap, we're pulling the trans out and then taking a shim out from behind the bearing to give us a gap. Hey, David,
Yep.
when I tell you, go ahead and step on it.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Down and hold.
Let off.
Off.
I think it's up against it, and we need to pull a shim. Well, we don't know exactly what's going on. Maybe it's a combination of get the air out and adjust the pedal stop, and we'll be cool. We're gonna put it back down on the ground, fire it up, and take it around the block and see if it works better.
Coming down. Whoa.
Oh my God.
That was not good.
Tell me that didn't go through the oil pan.
It did not, but it is stuck between the axle and the tie rod. The jack didn't roll. Boy, that's dumb. Sorry about that.
It happens. Whew, it's gonna be a long night.
Can you pull the jack out? Fixed. That's not right.
Yeah, my foot's in the gas. It's still trying to move.
If you crank it right now, what happens? Yeah, it's moving the car. What we just found is that it's still dragging. When you have your foot all the way on the clutch, you put it in gear, it grinds. You put your foot on the clutch and crank it without starting it, and it pulls the car, so the clutch isn't fully disengaging. So the next thing he's gonna do is put a shorter bolt on the clutch stop so that the pedal has more travel to see if traveling the bearing more will disengage the clutch. However, the balance you need to play is that if you stroke the bearing too far, then it comes apart, the O-ring seal on the hydraulic bearing pops out, fluid drops everywhere, and it's game over. And even if we take it apart, then we might not be able to get the bearing back together. So that's where we're at. Listen to hear if it grinds in gear.
Much better.
That's kind of normal.
Yeah, I think we're good now.
That seems normal for a straight cut trans to me.
I don't think we have to take the trans out.
We don't think we have to take the trans out, or at least we're gonna make that decision another 5 or 10 miles down the road. Great. Oh, it's not squeaking anymore.
Yeah, it's happier. I think it's good.
We made it. So we're rolling into some like shishi little tiny hotel, like, what is it, Motel 6, something like that? And there's no parking lot there. And so we're gonna have to leave this on the street. And if it's still there in the morning, then you will see us at Famoso Raceway for the ultimate showdown versus my Model A. It's gonna be great.
Nobody told me there'd be no parking.
I'm advising you now.
I like this car again because it's really, really powerful.
It's been great. On the streets of Bakersfield, let's go! We made it. Blasphemi drove all the way from Chandler, Arizona to here, Famoso Drag Strip north of Bakersfield, California. Well, normally we rent the track, but this time we were invited to Hot Rod Garage Day. Hot Rod Garage is another show on the Motor Trend Network, and once a year, they rent the track themselves and invite friends and family, so you're gonna see like 40 cars here, some of which are the Hot Rod Garage project vehicles, and they are gonna have a pause in the program so Finnegan and I can run side by side. So now we're here ready for the setup of Blasphemi versus my fraud, my 31 Model A Coupe. So this is gonna be good. We're prepping Finnegan's car right now. My car doesn't need a whole lot. My buddy Sam is here, who built the whole chassis on the thing. He's sort of handling the wrenching on the side. I'm gonna help Finnegan move over from street mode to race mode.
On the first day of this trip, we went to a drag strip and properly broke in a brand new set of Mickey Thompsons, but we also broke them. The inside of both tires were rubbing the inner fenders of the car, which is probably what caused it to go left every time I let the clutch out. And so we're switching tires. I now have a fresh set to put on, and fresh tires need to be broken. They're never as quick ET-wise as, you know, ones that have been broke in. And the fresh set is also smaller. They are not as wide as the ones that were on the car, so I'll have a little less traction.
So for this first run, I'm just gonna let the clutch out and just cross my fingers it goes straight. If it goes straight, I'm happy. Then we'll work on the rest of it after. Woo-hoo-hoo! That was my first burnout across the starting line ever. Oh, that was so fun.
Finnegan's here for his very first hit. He's got the larger blower pulley on it, not the 1100 horsepower tune, but probably like the 1050 horsepower tune.
Okay, that was bad. Everything was going really well until I missed fourth gear.
Finnegan made his first pass, and it was a non-ET because it looked like the driver's door flew open. So that's going to be a big pucker. That was interesting. You missed fourth, and then someone said, no, his door flew open. He lifted. Which one happened?
Oh, both.
Both.
Both things happened. Yeah, I've never missed fourth. That was a new adventure for me. It was going so well. I was like, yeah. Oh, no.
So you cut an 065 light, not bad. 135 60-foot time. So you want to go back and make another hit before they break for lunch?
I can't guarantee I'll get it right, but yeah, I want to go.
Cool, let's go. At least we don't have to pack a chute. That was better, 889 at 153 miles an hour. Now remember, this car's best ever is 852. His 60-foot was 1345. So pretty good. Now we're gonna take a quick break, probably fiddle with the car a little bit more. I'm guessing he's gonna want to put a smaller pulley on it. And we'll find out if he can do quicker than that.
889, 153.
Oh, and the little pulley. Oh, dude. We're gonna have a good race.
This is my 31 Ford Model A that's gonna be running against Finnegan. You've never seen this car on Roadkill. It was built entirely on Roadkill Garage by my buddy Sam, who you'll see in the background, like helping me out with this thing, and also by Steve Dulcich and myself, and the engine by my buddy James Bostic. It's a 31 Ford Model A. It weighs 2,450 pounds. The engine is a 572 big block Chevy. It's actually the same heads, crank rods block that I used at Bonneville to run my fastest time ever. This thing has been 261 miles an hour at Bonneville. It makes 950 horsepower. It's got a Gearstar Power Glide, Mosier 9-inch, 410 gears, 31-inch rear slick from Mickey Thompson. So when you put that much power with this much lightness, you get a best ever ET right here at Famosa of 8.501 seconds at 151 miles an hour. Maybe it went 155 on that one. Here's what makes this race actually personal for me. Finnegan has supercharger, EFI, like strain gauge on the shifter, I think, all sorts of rocket science. I went exactly the opposite direction. This has no power adder. It's carbureted. It doesn't even have an electric fuel pump. It's a mechanical fuel pump. So even though they're both retro-looking cars, this is very much like new technology with boost versus old technology, all motor. The time has finally come.
Yes.
Make it 3 yards, my friend, and we'll have ourselves an automobile race. Boom. Head to head, you've been waiting for it. Blasphemi versus the F-Rod.
Good luck.
I need it.
Special guest host Steve Dulcich here for the battle of the Roadkill hosts. Who's gonna come out on top? I'm gonna be watching the action along with you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are off to the races. This is gonna be epic. 2 8-second Roadkill cars lining it up for the honor of the fastest car on Roadkill.
Here we go.
.873 at 150 miles an hour. Finnegan, however, had some kind of problem off the starting line.
All right, well, that didn't work. It just blew the tires off at the starting line. I feel like my brakes are dragging.
Something went wrong. Well, I don't know what just happened, but it wasn't good for Mike.
A couple of things were wrong with it when you took off.
I kept letting on and off the clutch, and the car didn't really want to move. And I went to the starting line. When it's time to go, I let the clutch out, and it just barbecued the tires. It didn't go anywhere.
Huh. My car was a turd too, 872 at 150, and I red lit, so you won.
872 is not a turd.
Just to give you the numbers here, Mike cut an 033 light, I red lit by 025. 2060 foot, 123. Your 8th mile time, I mean, you were just coasting at that point. So,
Want to do it again?
what are we gonna do? How are you gonna fix your car?
I'm gonna take some compression out of the back shocks.
And I just found out I can't let go of the button as soon as I see the last amber.
Wow! What a burnout!
That was bad.
The trans brake didn't engage the first time. Oh, that was a bummer.
Freiburger took it, 871 to an 877. We're talking just 0.06 of a second between the two cars. That is that close, but close doesn't count.
Are you okay?
Yeah, you?
My trans brake didn't work.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought you beat me down here, because I was like, where is he? And then I saw you there.
No, you were ahead of me the whole way because I messed up. I'm sure I didn't even get a time. Okay, honestly, I'm walking away disappointed because my car is slow and I feel like I never got a good pass on that last one. My trans brake button, you gotta really get your finger down in the hole, and I didn't. So I rolled deep, and then by the time I was back on the button, it was at the second amber, and then I left. But check this out, I do have the data right here. First of all, you won one and I won one.
Okay.
You won the first one because I red lit.
Oh.
I won the second one because you red lit.
I did?
Yes, you
Oh
did.
my God.
However,
Oh, God.
check this data. This is what saves the episode, in my opinion, because I'm annoyed with myself and my car. But look at this, 60 foot, me, 1297. You, 1294.
Oh.
Okay.
It got better.
And 8th mile, 5.539
Okay.
to 5.590.
Oh.
Okay,
Oh.
so they ran the same to the 8th mile. I was a little bit quicker. Out the back, me, 8718, you 8775.
Oh, that would have been a good race.
And you went 154, I went 152. If we had both been on the tree, that would have been a great race.
Wow.
First, let me go the negative. My car is 2/10 slow, and I was a disaster on the Christmas tree. Now let's go positive. We both ran 8s. You made more power than you ever have. You drove your car from Phoenix to here. We finally ran them both side by side. And if you bench race this ticket away from all of the reaction time garbage, they were really, really close, and it would have been a good race.
We're gonna have to do this again.
We have to do it again the right way. This was not that. Hemi in one piece is probably the biggest victory of the whole thing.
It's not on fire and the rods aren't laying on the ground. I'm good.